Okay, so in this one, we're kind of leaving off where we left off in the previous Ionian mastery thing. One of the things I really want to point out is these are not about performance in any way. My videos are all aimed at composers and people who want to master composing in theory. That's it. I'm not interested in any aspect of performance here. I'm not a keyboard player, so and I just use it to teach from that and notation. And none of these are about performance at all. Let the performers worry about performance. Let's worry about mastery of harmonic concepts and composing techniques. So like the previous one, we're going to deal with the same 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 exercise because it forces you to use every chord in the scale of Ionian. Okay. And again, play everything super slow. Let it sink into what I call brain muscle memory. Not just hand muscle memory, but brain muscle memory. Let it sink in that what's happening. So let's just go ahead and start. We'll start with a C major 7, 9, and do the same progression. 4, 7, 3, 6, 2. It's alternating between 9th and 7th chords. Okay. Now, some people don't like the sound of the flat 9. That's okay. That's their preference. Well, in certain cases, a lot of people tend to avoid that specific sound, especially like over a minor chord or something. But I'm personally have no problem with it, and we're just doing exercises too. And I personally would use a chord like that, but everybody's different. So this is actually interesting because it's the complete opposite. It starts with a major 7th, and then as a major 7th 9. It alternates between 7ths and 9ths. It's a complete opposite of the first exercise. Still the same chord progression of 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Now here's an interesting part. We could combine these two as one big exercise. Start with number 2. 1. And it'll keep reversing itself towards each other. Each one will just keep going back and forth in between the two if you continuously fall like that. See if I'll just go through it one more time. Okay, see, you eventually end up at the same spot. So again, this is stuff you want to learn in other keys as well. Do it really slow. We're not worried about any performance aspect right at all. Okay. Remember, learn everything. Once you've mastered one key, move on to the next. This is mastery. And again, we're just developing our brain muscle memory on these chords. Nothing to do with performance. That would be more of a hand muscle memory. And, so let's not get into that in great detail. So let's do something like this in 4 voices, like this. C7. I wrote everything out for you, so the exercise. Still the same chord bracket progression. Okay. So something like this is actually kind of cool because you could do something interesting like this. Hold the common tones. Okay. And do something like this. Which is little effects if you want to use this in composition, like just giving you ideas to use besides exercises. So, I was thinking about this when I was looking at it, holding over the common tone. So again, we have number 4. It's kind of similar to number 3, except it's the complete opposite. Okay. 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay. Now the interesting thing again is we could combine these things. So like we could start with number 3, 4, and use that same effect. I'm not going to do it slow now because they're all both written out for you. Use that same holding effect on the common tones. You know, you could use that as some kind of falling harmonic trick. So we're not going to cover that in great detail. Just remember just holding over the tones. This one's interesting because, let me see, resize it to where, and get the number in there. And because it uses, when you pick a chordal tone and then change the root, it goes from a major 7 to 13 to a major 7 11 on that move. You see that? So it alternates between a 13th and an 11th by just holding a chordal chord. So you get this. Now I ended the last one on a major 7th just because it sounds a little bit more finished. So but you could use it as an effect like that by holding it over again. Or you could do something like, let's just go through it. Walk in between the roots. Okay. I'm not giving the greatest ideas, but these are just ideas. So let's remember, practice all these. Once you've mastered it in one key, to move on to your new key. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. Remember to always try to transpose things. It'll probably be slow at first, and intentionally you should do everything slow. So even with harmonic exercises, you want to both write them out as well. I forgot to mention that. Always write stuff out. I'm trying to, sorry about this, having a little trouble with the window resizing. So I'll just leave these two up as is, because again, these two are going to actually will combine if you start in the opposite. So now here's something we're going to do that's going to be totally against traditional functional rules. We're going to not resolve the 7th. So we're going to go like that to the F chord instead of resolving the 7th. Okay, we're just going to continuously go upwards with parallel fifths as well, because this is modern times. This is not a big problem. So here's the exercise. It's still the same chords progression: 1 4 7 3 6 2 5 1. So that one's alternating between 13th and just regular triads. So we're covering all bases here pretty much. So let's start on a regular triad, which would be number 7, the exercise 7, and then go to the 13th. Okay. Regular triad. Regular triad. Let's end it with a major 7th like that. So these can be combined. If I do the same thing, holding over common tones. In fact, that parallel fifth movement actually sounds kind of cool without resolving the 7th. It's an interesting effect. So we're going to end here. In the next one, we're going to talk about tonicizing style chords, mastering those within the Ionian tonal center, going back to the tonal center. So not for now, but for and we're going to start out with simple ones like we did in the first video of Ionian mastery, and I'll work our way up to more complex situations. But what you really want to get out of this is I resize this so you can print screen this this image if you want to practice this. If you don't, fine. If basic triads are enough for you, then that's fine too. But what you want to get out of this is developing brain muscle memory. And that's why writing things out is so important. Learning different ways to voice things. All that stuff really, really helps as a composer and whatnot. And don't worry about naming schemes. I mean, people names things so differently than you. Especially in modern times, we have so many different ways. People use figured bass. They could use different kinds of slash chords, like a C major seventh you could also put an E minor over C, and it'd still have the same effect. So and this is especially true of composers. Like for me, for instance, I've seen it so many times, even with studying other composers, that we're very inconsistent when it comes to theoretical things, because we're not worried about that aspect. We're not even thinking in terms like that, in terms of theory. And unlike a theorist, they're real hardcore on a certain thing, and they'll actually argue with composers over these things, and it's kind of funny. I try not to argue with anybody about theoretical things because it's silly. It's called theory for a reason, because it is just a theory.